Isn't optimism and looking for the positive just another form of spiritual denial and spiritual bypass? I just got this great question from someone following these videos. And I think it's a fair question. Now, admittedly, they were a little challenging in the way they put it. And I think the characterization is that people that are overly positive or always looking for the good in things are maybe in denial. Maybe they're missing out on important things that need to be looked after. Maybe they're being irresponsible. And maybe they're being unrealistic. So let's talk about this. Seems like a pretty straightforward or basic topic, but I think looking for the positive and finding the good in every situation is a remarkable skill and talent. So let's begin by dismissing the idea that there's any one accurate view of any situation or reality. That's an important starting point, because when we say, is it right to be positive, or isn't it okay to look for the negative? It sort of suggests that one way might be accurate and one way might be false. I think that if you consider the nature of research and evidence today, and let's not even talk about fake news, let's talk about real material science, what we know is that there is enough information in the world right now that you're probably going to find evidence for just about whatever you want to argue. And this is particularly true in our emotional, psychological, personal lives. Now, I'm not going to say that you can argue that the sky is pink when it's blue. That's not what we're talking about, folks. But, if you want to say, men are bad or men are good, or gay marriage is bad, or gay marriage is good, or Italian food is the best, or, the reality is that most of our lives, including what feels safe, what feels responsible, what feels like a priority, most of those things are absolutely personal in their nature. Now, let's go a little deeper. You might say, well, but I do research and I know the evidence for making this a priority. Well, that may be true for you in your life circumstance, given your experience and your personality and your worldview and your culture. But as someone who has traveled, and many of you have as well, it's definitely not the same. So, for example, in corporate America, corporate Canada, time is a critical commodity. So if something is late, that's bad. Being on time is good. Now, this is kind of a cliche example, but there are many places in the world where it's better that something is done well and late than maybe rushed and done on time. There are many parts of the world where, even though an agreed upon time may be set, showing up when the time is right is more appropriate. So in some parts of the world, time matters, and in other parts of the world, timing matters. Now, this is only the first look at positivity, and it is to say you've got to let go of the idea of right and wrong, better or worse, and accept that even in the conversation of looking for the positive and looking for the negative, there is always a subjective choice. Okay, now let's move on to the next thing. What if by being positive, I'm not going to see the problems? I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be hurt. The bad guys will win. That's not what we're talking about. When we say look for the positive or find the good in every situation, it's about moving your mindset, your nervous system, and your experience to be oriented around lessons, opportunities, gratitude. And we know, both from thousands of years of metaphysical teachings, but also from decades of scientific research, that a simple shift in storytelling, language, and frame of reference will actually change where your experience locates in your nervous system and your body. So when you see what you're dealing with as a panic a burden, a crisis, a problem that literally shows up in a different part of the brain. It enlists more of your limbic region, which in fact is associated with higher levels of stress, cortisol, adrenaline, all the things that are terrible for your long-term physical health. But that part of your brain is also reactive, and it diminishes your capacity not only for enjoyment and creativity, but for problem solving. So positivity is not necessarily saying we aren't going to face a problem. It's not saying a problem doesn't exist, but it is saying, okay, we're going to step back, we're going to accept it, we're going to look for the lessons, and we're going to be grateful for whatever good things can come out of it, even if it's a struggle or even if there's a lot of additional demand. And here's a final step that we'll take with positivity and looking for the positive today. I'm a little more reluctant to get into this because I'm not a huge fan of orienting your life around manifestation. I think for me, I'd rather orient my life around coming into alignment with life, with accepting life, and with allowing life to move through me. But in this sort of final reflection, I think we want to consider the fact that the more we are oriented around goodness, gratitude, positivity, not only is that beneficial for our nervous system, for our decision making, problem solving, and so on, but it does foster more of the same experience. Now, you could see that as a law of attraction. You can also see that as putting rose-colored glasses on and filtering what you see. But whether you think of this as a kind of magical thinking or not, the simple reality is we are shaping our experience all the time. And if that's true, why would you choose to shape your experience in a way that diminishes your capacity to be present, to enjoy life, to feel grateful, and to make the most of each moment? One of the ways that we can really come into the positivity of the moment is by being present, engaging the moment with our senses rather than the mind. The mind may know, okay, I've only got 5 minutes to make this video, step it up. But once the mind has had its moment to say what it needs, we can then step into the body and slow down, be with our breath, be with our senses, slow down to go fast. The other thing that really helps, and I think this will be the last point for today, is that there are 3 fundamentally different ways of looking at life. And I do think the lens of positivity and optimism is relevant here. The first is that many of us fall chronically or from time to time into the attitude that life is happening to us. Now, many of you have heard this before. So why did this have to happen to me? Why did this have to happen now? And we struggle because then things feel permanent and they feel pervasive and they feel permanent, something I've talked about in other videos. We feel more powerless in that worldview, and we tend to see through the lens of fear, scarcity, and negativity. But then there's another way to look at the world, and that is to consider that life is happening for you. That if you are a soul on a human journey, then every single thing is unfolding in the same grand design. Everything is unfolding as an equal part of nature. Everything is unfolding as an equal part of your soul's journey. And that means that even when things are difficult, disappointing, challenging, wonderful, surprising, or unbelievably personally pleasurable, it's all equal in the soul's journey. We're here to learn, to love, to help, and to fully experience the human life. But there is one last step in this kind of model of life happening to me or for me, And that's understanding that life is actually happening through you. And when I say life is happening through you, I mean that there is really no subject object. Is the universe for me or against me? That's kind of the whole positive or negative dichotomy. But you are the universe. You are the universe as the universe unfolding with and for the universe. And so there's a kind of neutrality, ultimately, behind everything. And from that neutrality, we then open our hearts and minds and sense what feels right for us, what feels truthful for us, what feels helpful for us. All we can do in life is be present and seek the highest good as we know it, moment to moment. And yes, we're going to fall down and fail. I do constantly. But we get back up. We remember the big picture. And when you see life as happening through you, then a failure doesn't tell you something about yourself. It doesn't mean you're wrong or bad or failed. It means you've got more to learn. It means that you're discovering the dimensions of life as it is. And that's okay. And so I think we can be absolutely realistic, absolutely responsible and accountable, and yet seek the positive, seek the lessons, seek the opportunity to help and to love in every moment of life.